Alright, welcome back to another Koenchi-shan Reviews. And in this video, finally, I'm going to bring to you a profile of one of my favorite retro mangaka ever, Hama Shinji. And if you're not familiar with the name Hama Shinji, you might be familiar with some of his colleagues from that era, Umezu Kazuo, or Koga Shinichi, or Sugito Koji. Incidentally, a lot of those guys were born around the same time. Koga and Hama were both born in 1936, and Umez the following year in 37. All three of them are from the same area of Western Japan. Hama was born in Okayama, Western Japan. So they came up together, and Sugito Koji was actually from Saitama and born in 42, but he's also from that same era, that kashihon or rental comic book era. Just as a quick reminder, the kashihon era was from the 50s through the 60s when there was a lot of rental book and rental manga available. These usually went for around 200 yen new if you can get them, because they were produced mainly for these rental shops, but for 10 to 30 yen you could rent them. And since a lot of people, especially during that era, didn't have much money at all, then, and especially if you want to go back and watch my Koga Shinichi video, then I kind of go into more detail about this. But it gave access to kids maybe without financial means to a lot of manga and other books and stuff like that. So I got quite a few things. I got about 12 titles for us to get into here. So let's go. All right. I thought the best way to do this would be to just go through Hama Shinji's stuff in chronological order, starting with his kashihon works and then working up through the Lemon Comics, Hibari stuff, and some of the educational stuff he did later in life. But first, here we are. This is a kashihon. This is Oru Kaidon, or All Ghost Stories, number 50. This was a really popular series during the kashihon era that I was previously talking about. And this is Hama Shinji. But not only Hama Shinji, it's got some stories by some others in here as well. That's cool. There's the intro page, which that doesn't look like Hama Shinji's art, but table of contents here. We have Hama Shinji, Koga Shinsaku, which was what Koga Shinichi went by before changing his name to Koga Shinji. So that's cool. Like I said, they're the same age. They worked very closely together. Some of their art styles cross over, as well as some of their stories. I don't know how good of friends they were, but, you know, during the kashihon era, you were just pumping out story after story after story, so I'm sure they knew each other quite well. And the first story is Hama Shinji. It's called Jigokuka. Is This Hell? We have our main protagonist and this boy in the story. The color's just dope, right? I know this isn't in the best condition, but I was lucky to find any kashihon that I could afford by Hama. So here we have this man. He's stolen something, and he is on the run from the police. He's even in the newspapers, as you can see here. And he's trying to hide from the police. This dude's pissing in an alley. This Eraihito, this boss or company president, and he mugs him. He's just on a wild rampage. Cops are everywhere looking for him. He gets in a shootout with the police. He's running from them. And then something happens. He jumps over a wall, he leans up against the wall, and then he falls through it. And ends up in hell, possibly. There's a dead corpse here. Well, I guess all corpses are dead. Dead body. And a doggy. And here we're going to see the introduction of animals and pets used as part of the plot to Hama's stories. Just wait. So the police can't find him. He disappeared into thin air, but he also can't seem to get out. Then he falls back through this portal to find a boy drawing on the wall, doing some rakugaki or some graffiti, drawing some airplanes and stuff. The boy's asking him if he's seen his dog around anywhere. He says, you know what? I'll come back with your dog tomorrow. Says bye to the kid. And then he slips back. And the reason why he knows where the portal is now is because the boy drew an airplane next to the portal opening. And then, you know, he kind of looks at the dog thinking like, yeah, and then he's like, what the hell am I doing? Whatever, screw this dog. Then he's stays the night, sneaks out the next day from the portal. We have some foreshadowing here of the mother with a bucket. Goes to go get some food because he's hungry. People in the restaurant recognize him, call the police. Then detectives spot him and the chase is on. He gets back over to the wall, but he can't seem to find the portal, and the airplane is nowhere to be seen. The police come around the corner, he starts blasting at them, and they cap him. He dies on the spot. And there we have the mother and kid walking away. She's just cleaned the graffiti off of the wall. And the boy's saying, here, I'm going to draw the man a nice big red or big yellow airplane tomorrow. Unfortunately, the dog was never rescued. So the dog is caught in the other dimension and will die. And that is this hell in Oru Kaidon. So you can see it's kind of horror, but also kind of a little bit science fiction-y. So he started off doing a lot of kind of mystery, science fiction, horror, before he became just like mainly a horror mangaka. All right. And this was from the late 50s, early 60s. There is no date in here at all. A lot of these kashihon did not have production dates in them. And let's move on. All right, this is from 1967. This is called Manga Comic. And I bought this specifically for, well, I like to collect old retro magazines anyways, but I bought this specifically for a Hama Shinji story in here, one of his early stories, which is also not horror. Incidentally, I am going to do in my next video a breakdown of a bunch of retro retro magazines and cover some of the manga in them, so be on the lookout for that. So this is illustrated by Hama Shinji, and Kitara Shinobu is the author. When you get into these like weeklies, a lot of them were written by one person and illustrated by another person. Not in all cases, but quite often that was the case. Tsugi wa doitsuya? What's next? So I'll go through this one in pretty much detail. Some of the later ones I'm going to just kind of skim through and show you panels. But just to give you an idea of some of the stuff he did before he became mainstay horror mangaka. This is a story about a young man. He's down on his luck. Here he's robbing a house, gets chased away by a dog. Here he is. This must be Ueno Park, because that's a statue of famous Saigo Takamori, the last samurai, you know, basically from the movie, Meiji Restoration period, one of the last hardcore samurai leaders. Here, a dog pisses in his face. That's pretty dope. Foreshadowing more animal stuff. Anyways, he doesn't have enough money for lodging, so he takes his bag of stolen crappy goods to an inn in kind of a crappy part of town, tries to convince the man to buy some of his stuff. He pretty much tells him to piss off. And then he's like, I got a healthy body. I'm a young man. You know, he was supposed to graduate from Todai. He became a Ryonin, or one of these guys that are studying between exams, and then he failed his exams and then became destitute on the street. Here he's leaving his mother as a junior high school student, saying, I'll be back when I've entered Tokyo University, or Todai. But he's a failure, tells the man he's going to kill himself. The man's like, do not ruin the reputation. Do not sully the reputation of my establishment by killing yourself here. Instead, I'll give you a job. So he gives him a job as kind of like a security/cleaner. And first night on the job, somebody tries to break in. He catches the guy, brings him to the inn master. The inn master is berating him. Then the inn master's like, what's that in your finger? And he's like, oh, it's one of the rings I was stealing from you. The inn master's like, that's worth 100 million yen. And I paid 30 million yen for it. But actually, it was fake. I was bamboozled. I was tricked. So he sends them off to do something, I don't know, to find the woman that tricked the innkeeper. And she happens to be an uranai woman, a fortune teller on the street. Then our protagonist here can't resist the ladies, and she seduces him. He's not really good at this. And his partner here decides to get a little peeky at the old sexy time. But while that's going on, her boyfriend, this big brute comes in, tries to punch our protagonist in the face, and punches through the glass, knocks out his friend, and they both come crashing to the ground. The girl doesn't want to be left behind with the brute, so she comes with them. And now we have our team. Sorry, to go back for a second. So the idea of this story is this is the formation of a fixer group, or a group that kind of does fixing jobs, or solves kind of detectives and stuff like that. And this is the formation story of how they came together. So at the end here, now we have our group of 1, 2, 3, 4. This is part 1, and that's the beginning of the team of fixers. In the gutters, they have like little explanations along the way about how the group is formed and how they will go on to solve cases. So that was not horror. The cover is dirty. So this manga comic was kind of a men's comic, men's manga magazine. So a lot of the stories in here are like Jidai Geiki or Gekiga, and a lot of them have sex and men stuff. Some baseball manga in there, some mahjong gambling manga in there, but also some Hama Shinji. This is pretty much my baby of all of these. This is called Kaidon Zenshu, or the complete ghost stories, like Kaidon's ghost story. Complete collection of ghost stories, we'll say. The cover here looks like a bunch of monster tales, but it's not. It's just the cover design. It says Koga Shinichi here, as I mentioned before, worked together or alongside Hama. But there's a bunch of stories in here. I paid $45 with shipping, $50 for this, or about 5,000 yen. It's more than I usually spend on retro manga, but I had to have it. So we have Hama Shinji, we have some Ibara Miki here, Koga Shinichi, Saga Miyuki of Hibari fame. I'm not too familiar with Kitakaze or Fukura. At any rate, the first story here is Neko Girai, or I Hate Cats, or Cat Hate, by Hama Shinji. So I'll skim through this, but basically we have this very unstable young man that hates cats. There he's murdering one that comes by his window. So this is the beginning, really the beginning of pets or animals, stray animals even, being used as plot points in Hama's works. Here the father takes the dead corpse of a cat over to the shamisen shop next door. A shamisen, is the traditional stringed instrument, and has the skins made into a shamisen, which is wild. So the parents are a little bit concerned, but at the same time, he's like, well, I got a new shamisen out of the deal. I did not know that. I don't think they're made out of cats these days. The young man has an obsession with this mannequin in a shop, which he calls George. He also, of course, hates cats. There he is, killing yet another. And thinking about George the mannequin. There's a cat that he killed before. There he is back at the shop, obsessing over George the mannequin. He's kind of losing his mind here. He's just thinking about cats, thinking about cats. He's killed 20 cats, it says. So, true sociopath. So you kind of don't know what's going on here, but there's these cats killing George in his dream. So then he takes off, he breaks into the store, steals George, the mannequin. Sorry. Here we go. The police are looking for him. There's another cat. Might as well kill that along the way. Some cat's blood gets on mannequin George's head. Now he's in this kind of reclamation land area. It's a dump site. And he goes to sleep with the mannequin. Then some people, construction workers, or maybe dirt haulers, discover him with a dead body, the body of a young boy. They go to the hospital. The guy's like, it's a mannequin. But it is not a mannequin. Then the father is here kind of explaining the background of his son, how he hates cats. Because when he was an elementary school student, his younger brother died of a sickness, and he believed that it was caused by cats. His younger brother's name was George, and that was what he called the mannequin in the shop. Is he just hallucinating? Did the mannequin really come back to life? Well, there is the cat graveyard that he made himself. And a newspaper headline saying that there was a murder of a young boy at the dump site. So, Kaidon Zenshu. We can see that this is where Hama really gets into the horror stuff. And this is 1972. Like, it's not even printed on there. It's just kind of taped in there. Thus, a $50 buy. All right, now we're getting into his main horror stuff. I have these all chronological. I think that we start off with 1975. 1975 with Kyuketsu Shoujo Karen, or Karen, the vampire young lady, or the young vampire lady. Of course it's Karen. Blood-sucking Karen. This is a story of a vampire, a Bela Lugosi-looking dude, who is revived from his deep slumber. And calls on a house to get out of the storm during a kind of rainstorm. He's traveling. He's just been resurrected. It's a family of 4. The brother and the father are out of town currently, so it's just the mother and the daughter there. And there he is visiting the house. I'm not going to go through all of these because, for one, some people want to read them. And second of all, it would just take too damn much time. But clearly, he bites one of the people in the house. And then here we go. More animal death. So there's the mother. There's the mother grabbing a bunny rabbit. And moving ahead, there is the bunny rabbit. The vampiric curse continues to spread throughout the household without giving too much away. And there's a wild twist at the end of this when the father and brother return home. Next, here we have Gakore Yoru, Yurega. So there's a ghost at the school at night. Of course, as in all Japanese, like classic Japanese ghost stories, there's a girl in the classroom at night. She hears something out in the hall to find a apparition or a figure out there. Some of Hama's stories start off really slow, and this is one of them where, we have some ghost sightings in the beginning. And then we have a bunch of school stuff going on for a long time. Incidentally, I should have mentioned earlier, in the beginning, Hama's first release was under the name of Sugita Shinpei in 1957 with a release called Himitsu no Hanazono. Himitsu no Hanazono. Which is kind of a mystery story. Here, I'll put an image right here. But he didn't work under that name for long, just like Koga Shinichi started off as Koga Shinsaku. A lot of guys did that. They end up changing their names. Kojima Miyako changed her name when she switched to horror. At any rate, this Ghosts at Night, I'll show you a couple cool panels. Here, this is a common theme in Hama and many other Hibari Shobo mangaka, horror mangaka's works, is death by car. Lots of death by car. And this story has some more cool haunting pictures. Haunting panels, I should say. So, floating hands, floating head. There's some floating hands in your face. The car accident. And that is Gakode Yoru, Yurega. This is one of my favorites. This is Shirohebi Shoujo no Noroi, or the Curse of the White Snake Young Lady. So, it's pretty cool. Check out. There's the man himself. There's the White Snake Young Lady. But the background of the story is wild. This girl and her family go out to their guest house on an island. And it turns out that this island has a snake curse. The reason why was back in the day, a prominent family gave birth to a snake baby. Snake baby. So, the villagers of the island decide that they must beware of the snakes or pray to the snakes and so on. At any rate, you're not supposed to be killing the snakes like this dude is. This is a... You know, in a lot of these stories too, these old ones, the family will go off and they'll bring like a tutor with them. A school tutor or a private tutor with them. Which, that's who he is. He's a family... He's an educator of the family. What else do we have here? Whoa! Beloved pet. Beheaded. Beheaded by someone. I wonder who. The snake curse is real, man. And what else did I bookmark here? Oh. Death by White Snake Girl. So that is the curse of the White Snake young lady. Sticking with the same theme, but not snakes, instead, cats. Noroi no Neko no Shima, or the island, the cursed island of cats. Well, it's Hama, and you see animals. You know there's going to be animal death. And maybe hybrids. There's a few stories where people turn into hybrid animals as well, which I will show you right now. So it starts off with the father as a writer. He's going off to this island of cats to do research for an article or a book he's doing. No one wants to take him, but finally he gets a boat to take him there. People are very, like, on the island are ignoring him. He doesn't know why. He wants to solve the mystery. And it turns out that there was a long, long series of storms back in the day. And the villagers went through a famine. And the only way to survive the famine was to kill and eat cats. Feral cats. However, when they did do that, everyone who ate a cat got sick and died. Thus, the curse of Cat Island. Unfortunately, when the author goes home, he's brought the curse with him. Obviously, you're going to get a midnight snack of fish. But this time it's the mother. And once again, cute little bunny rabbit. Gutted. Pet death is running rampant. And the girl is not spared either. The curse stretches far and wide. All right, I got 5 more to show you here. It's getting harder and harder to find these, Hama Shinji, and I look for some more. You know, he did about 100 works, but a lot of them are really hard to find. And I cleaned out Mandarake at Nakano Broadway, and cleaned out a lot of places online. I'm sure that some of them have restocked, but this is Hakunen Shoujo, or the 100-year-old young girl. We'll go through this one pretty quickly, but there's a pet. Dun dun dun. Girl moves to a new town. She has no friends. She's sad. She starts meeting this girl with her dogs on her walks to school who befriends her. But that girl doesn't go to school. They become friends because of the dogs mostly. But there is a sinister secret in this house. And there is also the killing of dogs. And the drinking of their blood. And snowballing. No, with blood. If you don't know what I meant, then you are not as depraved as me. Dirty. Here's a little insight into the curse. The father was a sculptor who had murdered a rival sculptor, starting the curse of their house. Here we have Yoru Aragustai, or the dead that walks at night. Again, getting back to that car accident, motorcycle accident theme, truck accident. And we start right off with an apparition. Or maybe not. It's a hit and run. They say, like, it's not our fault this little girl was walking around the middle of the road at night. They take off, hikinige, hit and run, which is a common theme in old horror manga, because I think it was a common theme just in Japan in general in the 50s, 60s, and 70s through that kind of modernization period, because it was I won't go into details, but it was a big driver behind the blood bank system in Japan, because it took a lot of blood to pump into those people after car accidents. Then the apparition appears again, causing them to crash and killing them. This has 3 stories in it. The second one is a motorcycle story. Oh, the first one was a motorcycle story. The second one, we have a truck. Running down a young man at night. And I'm going to skip ahead to the third story because Inu Otoko, Dog Man. Not Wolf Man, Dog Man. This is the story of a vet whose son is killed by a pack of feral dogs, causing him to go insane. Wait, there he is going insane. But he's a vet. So it drives him to murder his patients. You call him patients? And eventually, the madness gets so deep that he starts to transform into a dog man. I won't give up the ending. The ending's really fun. Yoru, kyōshitsu ni ukabu kubi. The floating head in the classroom at night. So this is about a floating head and floating hands, which is always cool. Of course, again, there's the floating hands. They don't give an F. This one has a lot of dialogue at the beginning, many school characters. I mean, it kind of drags for a while, but it is all important for the character development. Well, maybe not all, but not a lot of horror going on here. But when we get further into it, there's a sound. What's that sound? Floating hands disemboweling my dog. Kya! And later, we have her riding her bicycle and being run down by a car. There's a bunch of wild twists in this, especially at the end here. So, and then this scene right here is wild. Face palm. And the hands drag her out of bed and drag her out the window. And then the ending, the twist at the end is really wild as well. The last, incidentally, these are all either Lemon Comics or Hibari Comics. There's a couple other things in there too, but mainly this is Kyofu Gakuen, or the horrifying school, the horror school, school of horrors. We have more vehicular death, but this time by airplane. So they're moving from New York to Japan. The girl wants to enroll in a Catholic school. The father's kind of against it because he thinks that they're kind of weird. But he receives a mysterious phone call the night before, forcing his wife and daughter to return by themselves and him to go the next day. It was a mysterious call because the person, his boss supposedly called him. But then his boss said, "I never called you." And then that plane goes down and crashes, killing everyone on board. The girl ends up going to the school anyways after returning to Japan. But the school is not haunted, but rather run by a cult or Satanists. And students die. In a lot of the Hibari Lemon comics, there's a lot of child death. Because remember, these are all like shoujo muki. These are all shoujo manga made for young female readers. Although they're published far and wide, sometimes in like girls magazines like Margaretto, Pucci Margaretto and stuff like that. And sometimes in adult ones like we saw earlier with Manga Comic. So here we have the cultists levitating and smashing the brains of children. And that's pretty sick right there. All right, I drone on and on and on. And this was from 1987, I believe. 88. So what we just went through, that all spanned the years from, like early 70s to the late 80s. By the early 2000s, Hama wasn't really doing horror anymore, but he did do some educational books. I picked this one up. This is Kotowaze Jiten, or the Encyclopedia of Idioms. And I've been trying to read one every morning because I'm really bad at Japanese idioms. But it's his artwork in a very tame format. And he just gives us a kotowaza, or an idiom, and a little manga strip to go with it. By this time, he was probably in his, early 70s. And I can imagine being just tired of doing horror manga your whole life. But look at Umez. Still putting it out, and he's got a new one coming out in January. He's been working on for 4 years, and I cannot wait. So, do you have any questions about any of this stuff? Pop a comment down below. Thank you to everyone that subs, likes, shares, especially the subs. I have like a little goal in my mind of what I want to do with this channel at some point after getting enough subs. Like I said, my next video is going to be on retro and vintage manga magazines. So be on the lookout for that. And until next time, everyone, mata ne.